culture, do it for the culture, do it for the culture, do it for the culture. I gotta grind, I gotta shine.
It's for the culture.
Hey, but I'm
What's going on, guys? We have Brandon McKinnie here and my guy Rick Gray. Richard Gray is an agent. He runs Gray Area Sports, and here joined with Brandon McKinnie. He is the author of Slave to a Game. They are both from Chicago, Illinois. I'm really excited to have them as a guest. Welcome to For the Culture Podcast, guys. Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Tay.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure. You know, you guys are actually the first guest before the Culture Podcast, and exactly the type of guest that I had in mind. For sure.
We honored.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
man. How cool is it to talk to a Black author, a Black agent? You don't really hear that too often. So that's definitely for the culture. Something I definitely wanted the audience to, hear you guys' story, hear about the book. So I'm excited to have you guys. It's an honor.
Thanks for having us, Tay.
For sure. So we're going to hop right in. No further ado. So first things first, before we get into the book and you telling me a little bit about that, just give me some background, where you guys are from and how you guys know each other. We can get into that. I guess, Brandon, you can go ahead and start.
Man, I'm from Chicago, born and raised on the South Side. Grew up playing basketball. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so grew up in the midst of it all. Chicago has a strong basketball culture. Played in the hundreds, West Side, South Side, however you want to call it. Started off at DePaul University. Went there to be a walk-on. I didn't make the team, but they gave me a shot to make it the next year or whatever and stick around. But I chose otherwise and ended up at Chicago State. And that's how I met my boy Rick officially.
Okay.
Yeah, same, man. South side of Chicago, man. Brandon and us actually were rubbing shoulders since I was like a super shorty. I'm talking like 10, 11 years old because we attend the same church. And the neighborhood that I grew up in, while Brandon didn't grow up in that neighborhood, that's where the church was. So he used to always be in that same area. So I know for a fact, the way I used to run the streets around there, like we definitely had to run shoulders. And but again, we met at Chicago State. Both of us played there. Well, he was there 02, 03 and 03, 04, and I was just only there for 02, 03. But we were roommates. Man, beyond just basketball, man, it's like a brother to me. I mean, we tied together in a lot of different ventures outside of this. So, once Brandon goes into how he formed the story, then I'll be able to tell you why I came into play. But that's our story. Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of, so Brandon, tell us, I see you got the backdrop and everything popping off, Slave to the Game.
I got to represent, man. It's all about branding around here.
Now, I feel you. Actually, you got the shirt popping off, too. Let us see the shirt.
Yeah, all the merch.
So tell me a little bit about this book, man. I started it, and like I said on my intro podcast, I haven't even been able to put it down. The story is just so relatable. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about the vision. Why Slave to the Game? That's a bold name, by the way.
Oh man, you just don't know the half of it. The backlash I've gotten before it got out to the public about the name. Everybody wanted me to change. Not everybody, but a few people that I was trying to work with. They wanted me to change the name, and I was, if it was going to help get the story out, I was willing to. But if I had to put the story out first, name wasn't getting changed. And so I'm able to put it out first, and so we have Slave to the Game. It's funny, I meant to get the young lady a shout out that actually enlightened me on the name of the book. I don't even think you know this story, Rick, but I was at a barbecue and got to talking to this white lady actually. She writes, she went to Michigan. So she's very familiar with the Fab Five. So we got to talking, and she started telling me about her professors and everything, and the books he wrote. So we just was chopping it up. I was like, man, I got this story, man, I want to tell now. And I just got to telling her about the story, and like, man, it's a story of empowerment. It's a story of knowing one's self-worth, this, that, and the third. And I just got to tell. I was like, man, it's just like, we just all just really just like slaves to the game, and just like sometimes we need to break that, that bond, or we need to gain from it more. And she was like, that's the name of your movie. I was like, huh? She's like, Slave to the Game.
Oh wow.
She's like, that's the name of it. Yeah, yeah, that's dope.
That right.
So yeah, that's how I originally started out. As a movie script, and after shopping it around, moving around, I got a production company to tap into it. Tateman Entertainment, owned by Lorenz Tate and his brothers. They were really interested in the story, so they wanted to try to get it done. But after a year or so, it wasn't moving like like we all wanted it to do. So I was like, people was telling me, man, you should write a short story or something and do it that way and try to. I was like, I don't really like the movement of short stories, you know what I mean? And that would just be it. So I thought about the idea of a book, and I knew that writing a book the story would be around forever. Regardless if it ever got made into a movie, the story will be around forever. And so that's what I did. I tried to get a young lady to write it for me because I'm not familiar with writing books.
Oh my God, that story.
And we could be all day on just the intro of getting this made.
That's so funny. It's always a journey, right?
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Journey.
So is the plan? Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So is the plan still to transition it into a movie or no?
Yeah, man. That's the ultimate vision, to get it done into a movie. And I got, everybody that's reading like, man, this look like a movie. I was like, yeah, if you read the preface, you would know it was written up.
Right.
Sure. But yeah, no, that was the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate goal. Me and Rick, that's all we talked about. Like, and Rick, he's such a motivator on his story. Like, he wouldn't let it die. Like, man, you gotta get it done. We gotta get this out here. This, that, and the third. I'm like, man, I don't write books, man. It's hard, So, because he was instrumental in me getting this actual script done. Because when I was writing it, I sat back on it for a little while, and then Rick was like, man, you gotta get that story done, bro. So yeah, I ended up pushing it forward and got it done, sent in the first draft, second draft, like, man, we gotta get it done.
Okay. Nice.
We've arrived at the book.
Nice,
Absolutely.
nice. Okay. So for Slave to a Game, like I mentioned, it's a bold title. I think it's a title that speaks out, you know what I'm saying? So if a person picks up this book, obviously it's a fictional book, but like I said, it's so relatable, like it's very realistic. What's something that you want readers to take away from after reading this book?
I want them to take away that you control the destiny of your own story. You make things happen for you, no matter what. You have obstacles, of course, and the universe has its way, but it also has a way of helping you get to the goal that you want to get to, and just be optimistic. When you do things, you have to be optimistic. You can't just look at all the obstacles in your way and just think that they're just going to be these huge mountains every time.
Okay.
You got to chop them down. You got to climb mountains rather, and you got to chop trees down. That's in your way. And so that's what I want people to take away. You control your own destiny. Okay,
that's real. So Rick, you was a D1 athlete as well, playing over at Chicago State. Well, from your perspective as a shorty growing up in inner city Chicago, it seems as though many of us from the inner cities always aspire, we want to go to the Kentuckys, we want to go to Duke, we want to play for Coach K, we want to play for Coach Cal. What did you aspire to do that same thing? What do you think? Speaking of HBCUs, I'm repping Dillard University right now.
I'll see you, sir.
I didn't go to Dillard, but I did go to HBCU. I went to Howard. One of my best male friends, he played Dillard. He played basketball for Dillard.
Right.
So my question to you guys is, as shorties growing up in the inner city, why do we always aspire to go to the big time schools? Why don't we associate other HBCUs as big time?
I mean, it's really all about perspective, man. It's like when you're a kid, your motivation and your inspiration comes from what you're able to see. You know, that like that's where everything starts. The reason why we want to be rappers is because BET is accessible. The reason why we want to be, high major Division I players is because ESPN, Fox Sports, all of these local conference radio TV stations that you see now, it makes it available in abundance. And the problem with that is the reason why we don't think about the smaller schools or other opportunities out there is because literally we don't see it. For you to get inspired and motivated to do some things, you got to have access to it. And that access then turns to education and you kind of understanding what it is and then opening up the possibilities of going that route. And so the reason why Chicago State, for instance, worked for me is because that was our neighborhood university. Like we used to get free tickets to Chicago State games all the time. And eventually we just ended up going to the game. I mean, I thought it was a very low level of Division I basketball because again, all we saw on TV was the Dukes, the North Carolinas, the Kentuckys, and et cetera. And so in my mind, I'm like, if this is Division I and this is the level before the NBA, even though it's the lower level of it, I feel like I could play here. So it wasn't even really about trying to do something different. It was you looking at the talent that was out there. And from a competitive standpoint, you're like, okay, well, they are D1 and I feel like I can compete here. And so those two things together is what drove the original vision to say, okay, I want to go this route and this is what I can do. Because it's not like we was getting scholarship offers from the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the schools that you see all the time.
Okay, so we know, being basketball people, we know like everybody is scouting the top 100 in the country and stuff like that. Everybody want to make All-American game, Jordan Classic, Iverson Classic, stuff like that. But at the same time, in terms of, so there's 14 D1 HBCU schools, right? And out of those 14 schools, I think the records go back to 2003. They haven't cracked any recruit from the top 100. What do you think needs to be done for that to be changed? Because I know you mentioned in your book, without giving too much of it away, but one of the quotes is, nothing would change until something changes. Well, nothing would change if nothing changes. So I think that's so true. Do you think it just takes that one player and the dominoes will fall? Or like for instance, if you look at the one and done, Ben Simmons went to LSU for 1 year, Zion did Duke for 1 year. If you're doing 1 year anyway, it don't matter where you do it at. Why not do it at an HBCU? What do you think needs to happen for that one domino to fall?
Money.
He need a bag.
In short, money. But it really takes a kid that, because all these kids have these surroundings of people that are guiding them, and and they feel like they gotta feed, and because you just have to be real. These kids are being paid X amount of dollars. That just is what it is at this day and age, from the time they enter high school. But it just takes a kid like what's Jaylen Brown with a mentality like his, in high school, and to say that I want to go to Howard, I want to go to Dillard, I want to go to Tuskegee. Like that's just what I want to do. It doesn't matter. I'm near one and done anyway, and that's what I want to do. And it also depends on his success there too. Like he can't go there and get, lost in the shuffle. He has to go there and he has to stand out. He has to be an All-American. He has to take his team to the tournament. That's just one player though, And if he does it, somebody else might do it. It's a slow process, but it still is a process. And who knows? But if he can go with one or two other guys, and that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, strength in numbers, right?
Yeah, strength in numbers, without a doubt.
And I definitely want to take a stab at that one. Like, Brandon already touched on the fact of, somebody does have to be the first domino that falls. But then on the flip side, the universities also have to have, the resources to handle something like that. And I don't necessarily mean from a standpoint of they got to mimic and be exactly what the power conferences are. But when you understand that you're trying to get that type of talent on campus, then you have to at least get them the bare necessities for them to be successful there. Like I like to think of a kid named he went to Jackson State and he was Mr. Basketball in Mississippi. He could have went to Mississippi State, but he turned down Mississippi State and went to Jackson State. You never heard from him again. Like, I literally saw him play against Monte Ellis in the state championship game, and he was the best player on the court.
Yikes.
Monte went to the NBA. This kid could have went to Mississippi State and probably would have went to the NBA, but he wanted to stay home in Jackson and play for Jackson State. He went to that school. He didn't have the right mentors on the team, because what ended up happening was the upperclassmen resented him because he was a celebrity, for lack of better words, and they felt like they had something to prove, so they didn't bring him along and be his big brother and help him get acclimated. Like, they let him go out there and pretty much shoot himself in the foot to benefit themselves. And then it's gonna take more than one player to do it at the same time, because if you go to these schools and you struggle, then it also can hurt your stock. They need to maintain the level of prospect that they are when they go to these schools for the next level. Like, I like to use Malik Newman. Malik Newman, had he went to Kentucky, Duke, or one of those schools, he still would have maintained his first round status. But he went to Mississippi State and he had the target on his back, and he's still at a big university, but because they weren't successful and he didn't have the leadership and guidance and camaraderie there, he pretty much exposed himself, and then he lost his draft status. So I like to use those two examples to analyze that type of situation. You need multiple guys to go with you. The university need to implement even just like a temporary plan of action to be able to handle something like that. And then once that one story is not the first domino effect, meaning the first person to try it, it's going to take the first success story for guys to follow it.
That's interesting you say that, because obviously one of the glaring differences between HBCUs and predominantly white institutions is
call them what they are.
Right. The lack of resources. So for something, we know that it's a difference in facilities, it's a difference of access to, equipment, all that stuff. So how is it it all comes down to money. So, unless there's some type of influx of money thrown to these universities, because it's like the Dukes and the Kansas, they're heavily endowed. They're getting these TV contracts money. How is it feasible, or what has to happen for HBCUs to even realistically compete without somebody having to take that sacrifice on the lesser facilities? Like, I think a kid is going to have to go and take it on the chin as the first 2 or 3 to go. And then the influx of money could possibly come. Then maybe the TV contracts, ESPN will start running too. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know if it could come beforehand, right?
Yeah, Brandon, I'm going to have to turn up on this one, man.
Okay.
I'm really passionate about this one in particular. So HBCU in this situation, they're not going to miraculously have the finances and the resources. You got to operate like a small business. Every school has some type of endowment, whether it's a small one or a large one. And when I say operate like a small business, you literally have to assess what type of talent that you have coming in every year. And if you got a top 15 kid coming to your basketball program, and some of that money that usually goes to the football program, y'all got to say, nah, this year we got to enhance our media prep. We have to enhance, what our gym looks like. We need to make sure that they have a top-notch trainer this year, training table, things that you never had. And it doesn't necessarily have to be there permanently. You can put it there temporarily to make sure that this guy has a great experience. And what happens is everybody benefits from it.
That's
so,
real.
You're going to have at least that in place. These kids aren't going to be able to go there, take it on the chin, gamble and take it on the chin, and then not be successful and then lose everything. Like, I just don't think that's fair either.
Yeah. That's a kind of a big ask, right?
Yeah.
What? Not to count anybody's pockets or try to dictate to people how they should spend money, but when you see things happen, like, for instance, Russell Westbrook had UCLA gym renamed after him after he gave a large donation. You look at guys like Dr. Dre, who never went to USC but gave $40 million to USC. So when you see things like that, and they're just large sums of money from people from our communities is giving it to universities that don't need the money, let's be clear. Whereas the money could have been better spent at like a struggling HBCU that needs the money. What's your thoughts on that in terms of the owners or putting some type of responsibility on their big pockets, people that look like us, the celebrities and other NBA players that, if you go give to who actually needs it, such as the HBCU, right?
Yeah, I think Steph Curry just gave to Howard's golf program, because he's very interested in golf. But he went to Davidson, and I'm sure he's given to that school, you know. But he probably gave to Howard because his man's went to Howard. What's his man's name? Rick. Jaren.
Yeah.
Jerron went to Howard, and you know, Under Armour I think is back in Howard, so it's a lot of tie-in with that. But I think when you think about like Dr. Dre giving to USC, you got to think about his instead of like a HBCU is because look where he's at. He's in Southern California where the school is at, so he has kids that's gonna you know come through through this city and possibly through that program, you know. So it's all about a business move for those like him, you know. And I wouldn't necessarily say that there's anything wrong with that on his behalf, but if you don't know about HBCUs, if they're not reaching out to you like that, you know, we just can't give them money because, you know, they need new band uniforms, you know. You know what I'm saying? It's gotta be some more to grab their attention to want to give that money to that program, you know, or those universities.
Okay.
HBCUs need business development people in place, literally. You know, you need to have someone on staff, not to call graduates who are in debt to try to get them to donate, but no, like literally find the influencers that are attached to your university in some capacity, or would even, you know, need a reason to be attached to your university and ask for the money. You know, we can pick it and talk about, you know, this is a problem that needs to be resolved, but okay, what's the next step? How do we go to these, like somebody like Chris Paul? I don't know what Chris Paul does for Winston-Salem State, but I know he's always vocal, you know, about the program and the school. You know, Chris Paul has always been an advocate for HBCUs, but I personally, like, I don't know how active he is, and I'm not going to speak on it because I don't know, but when guys speak out and say these type of things, then call them out on it. Absolutely.
Right. No, that's real. That's real. So I want to get into a little bit how we got here. Like, obviously, everybody got their opinion on integration and, you know, separate but equal and how we got here. But in terms of, you know, if you look at HBCUs, a lot of us went to HBCUs when that was the only option that we had. So do you feel as though integration made it to where, and not even just HBCUs, or from an education standpoint, from a business standpoint, once the floodgates open to where, well, we don't have to just shop Black anymore. We don't have to just go to Black institutions anymore. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us associate white with right or white with better. So we want to go to, well, I'd rather go to Harvard than Howard because Harvard's degree is better, which is a flawed thinking. But at the same time, do you feel as though integration got us here to where it opened up the floodgates for our options? So now we really ain't really we're not checking for the HBCUs no more.
You know, we are people that want to, you know, enhance ourselves. And the way America's set up is that these schools are a way to enhance ourselves, you know, to look better, that piece of paper. And that's what it has been in the past, though. Me personally, and I talk to Rick about this all the time, that I think school is losing its value, you know, unless you're going for medical reasons or to study law, you know, something very, very specific.
Right.
Other than that, man, I think school is really losing its value.
That's right.
That piece of paper is meaning less and less. But it's just, you know, it's just like you see somebody with a gold chain, you know, and you know, so you want to do what he did to get that gold chain. And it's no different from us looking at someone who's, you know, from afar that's working in the White House or something, and we think that's a prestigious job. What school did they go to? So now I need to follow those footsteps, you know, just like Obama. He went to Harvard. So we you know, as a young Black man who looking like, if I want to be the president, I need to follow in those footsteps. You know, Howard program ain't gonna get that.
Hey, Thurgood Marshall went to Howard. He was the first Supreme Court justice, but
but ain't nobody talking about Thurgood.
And another problem with that, they celebrate it like it's a fish out of water. You know what I mean? Like they celebrated everything is always a first. Like the Bulls just got their first Black general manager. You know what I mean? And come on, we talking about 2020 and basketball, and it's a first. So because it gets celebrated the way it does, they still look at it as, well, that's not the norm. Like that situation was rare.
And he Canadian, by the way, but that's another
facts.
story.
Big facts. Big facts.
Yeah, man. That's crazy. So, but I know you guys mentioned earlier about, obviously these players, a lot of them are getting bags. Speaking of bags, though, you might be obviously familiar with the G League, the new select team that's coming out. This kid, though, obviously we know about Isaiah Todd and Jalen Green, but it's this one kid, Greg Brown. Greg Brown is going to Texas, and he turned down six figures, $300,000 to be exact, from the G League. So talked about getting bags. So makes me wonder, is he getting a bigger bag from Texas to turn that down, or is he really, I want to play college basketball? Like, it's not about the money. What's your thoughts?
Or he's the sir of our story.
Yeah. So you done added another league that's competing for amateur talent. So that pretty much puts HBCUs down another level. Like now, top talents are going to be exploring the G League higher, and then power conferences are going to be secondary. But Greg Brown, he's from Austin. I'm pretty sure that would mean a lot to keep a kid from Austin in Texas. So I'm pretty sure they did whatever they needed to do to make sure that their kid stayed home without knowing everything.
So that's what I wanted to ask you too. Being that the options are immense now, and they keep adding every year, seems like. Do you think the window of opportunity for a kid actually choosing HBCU, that window has closed? If it was going to be done, do you think, like for instance, just last year we had a kid, what's his name, Joshua Christopher out of California. He actually made Howard University an official visit. I think he just committed like 2 weeks ago. He going to Arizona State. But it was some daylight. I was like, oh, shoot, just an official visit. He turned down Kentucky. He went to HBCU on a visit. I'm like, oh, shoot, it may be happening. But
it was Howard homecoming, too, when he took his visit. So I was always looking at that with a squinted eye.
I know, right? For the clout. I thought we was close. But, what about that, though? Do you think the window of opportunity like that is closed?
I mean,
closed,
it got a little more narrower. Absolutely. Still a chance, but again, it's gonna take somebody that literally wants to change the game, as quoted, enslaved to the game, multiple times. Like you got to be, your purpose is gonna have to be others. It can't be yourself. The person that does this is gonna have to say, I want this industry to change for the better and provide more opportunities in this space. They're gonna have to literally be the first person over the hill and take all the shots that come with it. And they got to be cool with that.
That's real. Why do you think it's important? Because a lot of kids nowadays, just seem so disconnected to the moral of the story and the bigger picture of things. And I don't know if it's because we live in a microwavable society or we so far removed from the struggle to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Realistically, we're still in the struggle for sure. But why is attending an HBCU? Why is it important?
Well, just like every other school, they're taking care of their communities. The network is growing. Infrastructures are being put up just because enrollment of what the status of students that's coming through those doors. We go to HBCU, the same thing. Government has to provide money. Enrollment is up. The communities are growing. Of course, it's Black people that's going there. So who are you giving back to when you're doing fundraisers for things? Those fundraisers grow. These charities grow that are based around the Black culture. So it's important in so many ways. I wish that I knew the importance of it growing up. I didn't. I had no idea about the differences of HBCUs or any other university. I didn't. I just knew they had good bands. We would go see the band perform at Soldier Field every year. Doing the Big Skin Classic. So that was my gist of it. I had a teammate that went to Jackson State, and it was like he didn't have any offers, but that's when he I'm going to Jackson State to play ball. We oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? We didn't know. Mm-hmm. We didn't know. And we talking about being 16, 17 years old. These kids, they really don't know. But they should They should have a better grasp on it than we did, though. But I don't know.
And tying it back to the book, that's what his book is very, very important. And that's why, everyone that I've had a conversation with about us coming on platforms and talking about it, yeah, like the book is moving, it's selling, it's doing well, but the sales are less important than the story being spread wide. Like, I mean, the fact that kids won't get an opportunity to know what, like, the nuance and, just the foundation of this whole thing, then, that's going to be problematic moving forward if that doesn't happen. Like, seriously, you're talking about two kids, from the city of Chicago that have to overcome these different obstacles inner city before they even get to a point of, do I go to Duke, North Carolina, or an HBCU? So we talk about, where you have to be a slave to the game in all levels of this. One kid makes a sacrifice at one point and he's going to be looked to make sacrifices throughout. So those are going to have to be the type of people that's going to literally change what this whole thing is all about when it comes to attending the HBCU versus a PWI versus a G League. Like, it's all about sacrifice and selflessness and community. Like, that's what this story, in my words and my thoughts, are ultimately about.
No, that's good. That's good. I agree. And just when I saw the title, I just was like, man, wow, this speaks to so much. The broader picture, even aside from the education standpoint in the HBCU, for me, it reflects the concept of taking back power, the Black athlete taking back its power, because if you look at it, from on the field is Black talent, on the court is Black talent. In terms of the power construct, though, the PWIs is, it's not ours. You know what I'm saying? In terms of even the organizations that the pros play for, we still getting first general managers to run these organizations. As far as the coaches, many of them are not Black. The management's not Black. So when you say slave to the game, and you mentioned it in the book, like, we are slaves to something. And I think us as a people, when it comes to athletics, especially, we are like, if any way that we can take back that power, I think that's essential. You know what I'm saying? And I think in this book, you highlight that really well, because it's like, sometimes you got to realize that the sacrifice is more important than the money, the prestige, the big school. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just think that's important, taking back power.
So, I mean, these professional athletes, even though they don't control the teams and, don't own the teams like that, but that's why I see it the most at. Like, the moves that LeBron James has made in the last couple of years, it's just showing that how much power that he has to, in the capacity that he's allowed, and maybe even a little bit beyond. But the moves that he's made, of course he is to win and, and be on this level and do these things. But it's like I said in the book, it's showing that I own me. You don't own me. And all these businesses that surround him in these companies, they are moving right along with him. And that's why I couldn't be mad at a player like Durant going to Golden State or.
No, I was mad at that, bro. Hold up.
See, there she go. Don't get us started on that.
I mean, from a basketball standpoint, as a competitor, you look at it, differently. But as a business person and as a person that looking at people taking back their power, that's how I looked at it, and I can agree with him on that in saying, like, I don't have to stay in this position that I'm in. I can make this move, I can make that move. Go ahead.
I would have loved for him to actually say it that way, because then I think a lot of people probably would have received it differently had he said it like that. He had this quiet, non-responsive way of saying,
I need rings to validate me. So he wasn't doing it for no empowerment type of thing.
No, he wasn't.
But honestly, being a champion, like, well after your playing years, man, you can eat off that in so many different ways. Those communities that you win in, you can come and enterprise in them for as long as you want to. Being a champion, you can go anywhere, and your ring can be representation further than the next pro athlete to walk into any door that you want. So
let me ask you this. With that being said, do you think 30 years from now, 40 years from now, or even present day, do you think more people will be willing or be looking forward to hear from Charles Barkley as not a champion, or Robert Horry as a multiple-time champion?
Well, that's different
Well,
because
troll
they,
because he
yeah,
a bigger
because what he
personality.
accomplished on the court
He
with
not
just
a
the
champion.
three.
Exactly.
Nah, but see, nah. It's nuance with that, man.
He
People
a
always
gold
want to.
medalist.
Yeah, nah, it's nuance with that. I mean, what Barkley did on the court, it
Mhm.
wasn't even close. Well, Robert Horry wasn't even close. I think the ring differentiator only comes with people that are neck and neck. It can't be
Okay,
a
because
person.
Draymond
Yeah,
Green think because he is a champion that he's more influential and people want to hear from him more than Charles Barkley.
these dudes need better publicists, man. Like they don't know how to deliver their message. And I'm telling you, man, that's part of what I do, man. I help these dudes communicate. And
Yeah.
if he delivers that message the right way, it wouldn't have been received like that. He was just misguided when he said that. I mean,
Okay.
Draymond can arguably say some things in playing career that's comparable to a Charles Barkley if you look at what he represents to the organization. Like I listened to him on All the Smoke. I'm a fan of Draymond now. Like his perspective, how he explained it, hats off to me, but he just killed it at the end by calling, like, come on, man, you were there, man. Like he lost it.
Yeah.
So,
But so obviously it's so many books on this stuff from, the classic, actually looking at my bookshelf. I'm reading right now, was it Revolt of the Black Athlete?
yeah, man.
Which is a great book. And $40 Million Slaves. And Bill Rhoden talked about this years and years ago. And Revolt of the Black Athlete, one of the lines that stuck out, it was like, when you look at that 1968 conference that they had it was big names. It was Ali, it was Kareem, and they basically said that black dignity is no longer for sale. And I just look at that statement, and for not even like those were superstar players at this time that was standing up for something so monumental. And you look at present day, we look at how Colin Kaepernick took the hit that he did for the sacrifice that he made. We really criticize. I mean, don't get me wrong. LeBron is my guy. He pushes the limit a lot, I think, but still within the lines. I think like he teeter-totters.
Definitely colors within that line. Believe that. But
Yeah,
no hate.
No hate
No,
at all.
he
I
does.
give him his credit for the limits that he do push. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
But at the same time, what do you think? Like, obviously, going back, what was that, 2016 or 2017 at the ESPYs when Chris Paul, D Wade, and LeBron came out and they had their little segment when they spoke out a little bit. What do you think? Do you think it's just nobody want to sacrifice their bag, right? So to get to where we was at in '68 and we had superstars, I mean, Ali lost his title. You know what I'm saying? To stand up for what was right. We look at Kaepernick; he got blackballed. He's not in the league anymore.
Ali gave up his freedom. Let's stop. Like, man, we gotta have Ali
freedom.
here and everybody else
real.
is down here. Like
That's
real
real.
talk, man. Like Ali was different, bro. Like different.
He was.
Yeah.
And we was going through different things back then, but at the same time, we're going through some serious shit now. What do you think has to happen for it to be enough from somebody of prestige and like superstar status be like, you know what? Forget the money, forget the cars, forget the endorsement. This is enough. I'm not having it. If you look like back in the day when they did the boycott of the Olympics, what would it take? Say you're not gonna play in the finals. Don't go out there. Don't play. Even if it's just a game, that would hurt them so much financially. The power structures. Yeah. And I'm just looking at it like it's easy for me to say I'm not a millionaire, I'm multi-millionaire. So, but when is enough gonna be enough? Is my question. Like, do you think we ever gonna get to that day in present time when a superstar be like, you know what? Nah, it's not happening. Stop this.
It takes special people like Ali, and Kaepernick. Ali, he knew exactly what he was doing. I don't think Kaepernick really knew the repercussions that were going to follow what he was doing when he was doing it, but he still stood up for something.
Yeah.
And I commend people like him and Ali.
He didn't compromise.
He did. Nah, he didn't. And what's sad is that you don't have enough people that believe in what he believed to stand with him. And that's the problem. And like you said, if people just shut down the finals, like if LeBron came out and said, look, man, I ain't doing this. I got enough money. I'm gonna get some backlash. I'm gonna get probably sued from a couple of companies, but I'm also gonna get a couple of companies to ride with me, but I need some players to ride with me as well, because like we said earlier, it's strength in numbers, and no one man can just, you can't march through Alabama by yourself, You know what I mean? You know, Martin Luther King, he wasn't just walking out there with 3 people, or
Yeah.
it was hundreds and hundreds of people, because they believed that whatever the sacrifice was at that time
Hmm.
was going to benefit the next generation and the generations after, and that's
Yeah.
we have to believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gotta be. It has to be a we all in this together. It's whether it's the LeBron James down to the person that's on a minimum deal. Everybody has to be able to say it's no threat of financial gain is going to stop us from
Hmm.
getting accomplished what we're trying to get accomplished. Like I read, there's an article floating around this morning about Craig Hodges, and Craig Hodges was talking about, in '88, he had went to Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan, about we don't need to go on the court because XYZ is getting out of control. And Mike and Magic, in so many words, said, "Look, man, we can find another way to give to the cause, improve it, but doing it
Mike was
this
like,
way
"Hey, Republicans buy shoes too, bro."
is taking it too far." And, but this is all athletes, for lack of better words, because you got to think about this. Think about the collective bargaining that they got to do when they're trying to come to a term. The reason why they normally say, "Okay, forget it, this is enough, we'll compromise here," because somebody's stomach is getting empty. And if it gets to a point where somebody is about to miss out on something that they can't afford to miss out on, then eventually they'll fold. It's literally going to take everybody to say, no matter what, we're not going to budge and until we get the exact change that we're looking for. And I'm not talking about compromise. The Donald Sterling thing, that could have happened a completely different way. Instead of them not playing, they, put black shirts over their warm
I
up.
wanted them not to play.
Man, if that was a moment that you're not gonna ever get back. Like they
I
literally
was
could have
there.
said, man, they and you don't get many opportunities like that to make a statement like that.
Yeah.
Like the NBA had to lead it and taper it up and make it look a certain way, and so it kind of took away from it. I mean, they got what they wanted ultimately, but it could have really made the statement that it was supposed to make. And I think that's the problem with that. The same fundamental thing is there. It's just nobody wants to sacrifice everything to get what they want, and hey, that's on them.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, what do you think? First of all, I wanted to talk about obviously we know the NCAA, and they've been on trash for some years. The Christian Dawkins story. Did you guys watch that on HBO? The scheme.
Oh yeah.
What's your guys take on that? The whole scheme, the whole NCAA going under, and coaches being paid type of ordeal. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
I came out as the NCAA is dirty.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the FBI and the NCAA, the way they handle things,
because to me,
see what they were going after.
Brother went under. A whole bunch of brothers went under.
Yeah, it did, and it was strategically done because a couple other guys were supposed to go under without a doubt, and that's why I'm like, this was strategically done, and you hear it clear as day in all of Christian's phone calls. That's not what he wanted to do.
Exactly.
And they forced him to do what he didn't want to do, because he was like, we don't even have to do that. But but at the end of it, NCAA didn't get in trouble. None of the major coaches, they didn't get in trouble, but Pitino, he back, That's just because he was just too dirty. They just couldn't cover it up enough,
Right.
And he's back already.
They just made him take a break and come back. I mean, that literally was like the reverse of what they do in like drug shakedowns. They took the street level guys and then let the big fish live, and usually
most of them was out for the big fish, but at the end it ended up just being a small fish takedown, or small fish that I feel like wasn't even like.
I mean, I don't know, but was it ever about the big fish? Because they had hard evidence about the big fish, and they never even went after them. The guy disappeared. Like, huh? Like, how does that even happen? And then Christian goes down. We know how many people Christian was. Man, Christian was a runner. That's just what it was. He can do business with this agent, that agent, and that agent. And then no other agents go down. And they made the one guy just go to another segment of the business. So it's like, come on, man. It was all racial.
Yeah, that really bothered me. That rubbed me the wrong way for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're gonna wrap up here soon, though. I got a couple more questions for you guys. So the NFL draft just happened this past weekend. Actually, first time in history. This is it was the most representation by Black agents in the first round ever. 17 of the 32 first round picks were represented by Black representation, which was, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Now, I'm an NBA agent. I'm not in the NFL, but I still was ecstatic to see that. What's you guys' take on that, being that it's 2020 and we still having so many firsts? Because, like I said, we represent most of the talent on the field and on the court. But in terms of representation and ownership and management of these teams, it's just, we very far and few between. What would you guys take on that in terms of, it being so many Black representatives that represented these players? Do you think it's a changing of the tide?
Slave to the game, man. The power is in the players. The players have the free will to choose who they want to represent them. And if the numbers are more strongly on our side of it, then what happens in the business as a whole? Our faces become the power players and we can dictate more. So I looked at it as a step in the right direction, and hopefully it's consistent and it doesn't necessarily just work with just a certain group of people, because it's never been an issue about us getting in. We could always get in, but we're not visible at all levels. Either we're going to be the big dog that's going to be sprinkled in there, or we're going to be at the bottom. We don't have infrastructure in the beginning, middle, and end where we can always make sure it's something for us and then the people that comes behind us.
So, Rick, you're an agent as well. So do you think that the narrative and the tide is changing a bit in terms of players realizing that they have the ability to empower others, such as you look at a LeBron empowering a guy like Rich Paul? Do you think that the narrative is changing to where they don't necessarily think that they got to have the Jewish guy to get to the success? They don't necessarily have a white guy to, negotiate their endorsement deal. Like, Black people are competent and can do the job as well.
No, that's absolutely what it's saying, but, it's two sides to it. It's players showing that they can entrust, a Black agent and live with them and respect them and let them do their job. And then at the same time, the Black agent that's given an opportunity, he has then a responsibility to make sure that he's holding it down, because being an agent can be celebritized at times, and that's not what it is. And so if you are the guy that's in a position that get these opportunities to represent these guys, you have to make sure that it's known that, man, you have a reputation to uphold and you're not a celebrity. Even though you can get celebrity status, your phone is going to be ringing at 3 o'clock in the morning. And if you got to get a kid out of jail or, get them out of a compromising position, that's your job for the moment. I don't care who you are. So, I think that's a big piece of it that we have to make sure that gets told time and time again. If we don't want those guys to sneak back in and take back control of the industry while we have the ball, we got to do the most with it.
Okay. All right. Well, going back to slave to the game, if you guys were your 18-year-old self about to, go to college, make your college decision, and you about to go play ball somewhere, where would you guys go play ball at? Brandon, you can go first.
You go first, man. Keep it real.
Knowing what you know now.
Yeah, knowing what I know now, well, my 18-year-old self didn't have any offers. A couple of junior college offers and, a couple of walk-on offers, you know what I mean? But my 18-year-old self, knowing what I know, and North Carolina wasn't on the table. Knowing what I know and telling this story.
Hey, the NC State got a rich history.
Yeah, I mean, if I had that status, me being who I am, because I was a rebellious, stand up for your rights type guy, and if I was in a position as some of these top players, LaMelo Ball or Jalen Green or what have you, I would try it out. I would try an HBCU, and I would come in with demands because I know I can get them.
Okay, talk about leverage. All right, I feel you.
Yeah.
Well, my response is gonna be different. I mean, slave to the game to me means more than just a HBCU. A top prospect choosing the HBCU. It's about utilizing your power. So, will I still go to a top school if the offer was there? Absolutely. But guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna give my boy a scholarship who wants to go study in something else. If my sister is getting ready to, graduate from college, I want one of their top donors at a Fortune 500 company to make sure she gets an internship. Like I'm doing something where I'm gonna try to bring 4 people with me. That's gonna be my version of opening up the door and creating opportunities.
You know what? That's interesting you said that because I feel like that's the exact perspective that LeBron had at 18 years old. He had, you know what? Put Maverick Carter over there as an intern at Nike, or Rich Paul. You know what? Put him at CAA. You know, and then when it's time to once they done learned the game, you know, cut them off and let's start our own shit. So I respect that. I'm all.
Because LeBron knew he knew what he was. Like you want to represent me. And if you don't take my boy and teach him what I want to do, what I need him to learn, somebody will. One of these companies will do it.
Yeah.
You know.
That's real. I respect that. All right, so y'all tell everybody where they can find your social medias, where they can get the book. Make sure they cop that. Let us know what you guys got coming up for the future. Got in the works.
Yeah. Well, with a book, go ahead, Mac. You can tell them where they can find the book and the tags.
Book you can find it on Amazon, of course. It's several categories right now. One of Amazon's hottest releases. Number one.
That's a soft flex.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's reached number 2 on the bestseller list.
About to be on Oprah's book list.
Hey man, I'm trying to get. We trying to get there. You know,
we gonna be there.
Yeah, Amazon, or you can buy it. You can get the book also on our company website, 1140productions.com, where also merchandise is able to be purchased. Couple of ways to get this joint.
Where can they find you, brother?
You can find me at The Kid BMac on Instagram. The Kid BMac. You can find me on Facebook, just my name, Brandon McKinney, and Instagram, same thing. And you can find Slave to the Game on Instagram at Slave to the Game _.
You can find me at I Am Rich Gray on Twitter, I Am Rich Gray on Instagram, and Rick Gray on Facebook. Things that we're working on, like literally, we're trying to make sure that this story, you know, is seen by as many people as possible. But this is supposed to be a film because that's how a lot of information is consumed. So if we can tell this story in a way where these kids are absorbing the content, then you know that's what we want to do, and that's film. And then just several other projects that we're working on. So this is just the beginning.
Okay. You know what? If this be made a film, you know who I think would be good as Sir?
Who's that?
The kid that played. You guys seen Survivor's Remorse?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I think that'd be dope.
No comment.
Oh, well, in that case, it ain't gonna be him. All right, brother.
No comment.
I feel you. It's all good. It was great having you guys on again. This was the first episode of For the Kulture Podcast. It was a pleasure. Thanks for joining me. And
thanks for having us.
For sure. All right, guys. Y'all stay safe in this quarantine times.
Blessings. You do too.
All right, guys. Speak, guys.
Peace.